In today's episode, I have the pleasure of speaking with Jack Davidson, director of the play True West, happening June 4th to June 15th. He is partnered with Alkabong Theatre Productions, and he shares his insights into the creative process, the target audience for the play, the challenges faced in indie theatre production, and we also talk about the importance of audience engagement. We also talk a little about his background in performance, dance, fight choreography, theatre, a true creator with many, many hats. We even talk about theater pet peeves, favorite Canadian directors, and more. I hope you enjoy this interview and go see True West at St. Matthew's Clubhouse June 4th to June 15th. Before we get into this interview, if you could hit that subscribe button, it would help us out so much and it doesn't cost you a damn thing. Thank you for being on the podcast. I'm so awkward of trying to make this sound natural when we start.
Oh yeah, we just started this conversation right now.
Exactly. It was like, oh, hello.
Hi.
So you have a show coming up. Tell us about the show and how you're involved with it.
I would love to. I'm working with Alkabong Theatre Projects, which is run by a good friend of mine named Andrew Cameron. We've been collaborating on projects for, like almost 10 years, which is kind of wild to think about in various capacities. And this is kind of his theater enterprise, Alkabong. And he asked me to direct this play, True West, by Sam Shepard. Last year, we did it in British Columbia on Bowen Island, which is a pretty beautiful place to be, just to kind of try it out and see how it felt with some actors that we wanted to work with and get into some of the parts. And it went really well. And it was one of those lovely experiences where the play really did continue to reveal interesting things about itself, which might sound a bit like corny. Like, I don't often say things like that about plays, but it really was that. And we thought we should try and bring this to Toronto, get some of the same actors. There are kind of two brothers that are pivotal in the show, and then some local actors from Toronto to fill it out, a couple other characters. And so we're putting it up at East End Arts from June 4th to the 15th. And East End Arts is in a corner of Riverdale Park, so by Broadview and Gerrard. And it's just an indie production. It's just us with our shared artistic know-how and energy making this thing happen. That's kind of what's happened in a nutshell. And so I'm the director.
Fabulous.
Was it clear?
Amazing. No, yeah. Yeah, no worries. I got it. Excellent. And what drew you to wanting to be a part of this project? Andrew, my friend, he, again, kind of connected to what I was saying about the play kind of drawing us in more as we went. Was he had read it recently, and he kind of reached out to me and said, there's something about this play. I don't totally know what it is yet, but I feel like there's something here that's worth getting into. And I've been an aspiring, emerging director for a number of years. And I kind of said, okay, I don't love this play on a first read, but maybe that'd be great practice for me, as a director. Maybe one day I'll be hired by a company to direct something I have no particular attachment to, and I have to make it work. So I kind of jumped in to practice that skill in the hopes that it would be usable one day. And he kind of said, that sounds great, actually, because I think sometimes works really well, that it's not my passion project. So my drive is going to be to make it interesting, make it good, in for lack of better terms. And then, like I said, the more we worked on it, the more that I really love this play now. And I'm really excited to do it here, and I want people to see it. So that's kind of how I got involved, but now I feel very involved. Nice. That's amazing. And what kind of people should come see this play? Who's your target audience? Who do you think would benefit from this the most?
I think this is, we've made many shows in other kinds of theater shows that we use the term family friendly, kind of saying it's good for kids, but it's not just for kids. This kind of thing. This admittedly maybe isn't that. This is for a mature audience, an audience that likes to be intellectually stimulated, um, without, while the play also very much isn't an essay. So it's not that kind of show. Um, I think if you're interested in something that feels intimate, um, the way the show is set up is that it feels like you're sitting in the same living space as them. It really does feel like you're right there with them. So, and you're watching this journey that these in particular these two brothers are going through. Um, the show has a lot of, we can, maybe this is a separate question you might want to ask, but I'll hint at it now. In that there are a lot of themes in this show that connect a lot with what's going on with our neighbors to the south in terms of the kind of the energies that exist between what seems like rival siblings almost within that country. Um, and so people who are feeling this world, like the many things going on in the world right now, I think this play um, is a very interesting lens through which to re-examine so much that's going on in this world, and realizing that, as many things do, they have a relation to a previous point in history. These things have kind of happened before in different ways.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, and theater lovers, obviously. If that,
Yes, of course, of
obviously,
course.
and art lovers and lovers of interesting nights out.
Fabulous. Excellent. I love it. Do you have a favorite part of the process from being assigned this project or accepting this project till the end point?
That's a fun question. Um, I mean, I I really do like the process of directing. I I quite enjoy being in the room. Um, I think it's a shared feeling that many people in the arts, and in particular in live performance theater, whether that's musicals or opera, plays, whatever. A big part of why they do it is because they enjoy the types of people that are there, and that's definitely true with me. I love working with actors, as people and as artists. So I really love that part of the process of just setting it, making it happen, um, and working together to craft this piece. Um, I admittedly still get like I'm a performer myself as well.
Hmm.
I get more nervous as a director, like those
Really?
opening shows where I say, okay, like go get them,
Release it.
yeah,
Yeah.
release it.
Ooh.
Um, as a performer, I'm admittedly fairly comfortable these days, but I feel that, and as a director, I feel nervous. So I really enjoy the in the room moments, and then it's a it's watching my baby birds go
Yeah.
off, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Do you stay every night to watch the show? Are you in the back watching, or do you just stay for opening and closing, or what's your
Um,
preference for watching?
Usually the way we do it, because the stuff that we're making, these are our own projects,
Mm.
and if I'm directing, I'm there every show, and likewise if it's flipped and then Andrew's directing or someone else's or whatever, like they're always there. Like not only will I be there, I'll be calling, cueing the lights and sound and checking people in. Like I'll be actively involved, not just like, hey, nice. Like I'll be in the show.
Yeah.
Um, this will be an interesting one for me because for the second week of the run, I won't be there, and a friend of ours is going to kind of take over from my role because I go away on my honeymoon.
Oh, nice. Oh,
So
congrats.
thanks. So a nice reason to,
Yeah.
but I trust them. It's they're going to be totally fine. They don't need me.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's that's amazing. Yeah, good excuse. We'll allow it. We'll allow it
Thank you.
100%.
Thank you.
Do you find when you're directing through the rehearsal process some common notes that you give actors?
Hmm. Hmm. I mean, I think one of the best skills you can have as a director is being adaptable, adaptable to different scripts, different types of shows, and different types of actors. So I try not to get stuck in having a certain way that I direct that's rooted in
some people are like, well, what's your objective? We got to bring it back to your objective, and that's their kind of the main directorial note that they stem from. I try kind of to intentionally not have that, so that I'm shifting as needed for, because every actor, every performer is super different, and you have to be able to find your way in with them as much as you need to find your way in with the play. I don't know. I think something. I don't know. That's a funny one. It's a good question. I don't know that I do. I mean, I have Andrew sitting off camera. Is there something I always?
That you keep consistent?
Yeah, no. That I is there a note that I like always give, like a certain kind of note?
Certain kind of note. Well, these days line readings are quite sort of taboo, I feel like, in rehearsal rooms, and so Jack has very cleverly sidestepped that by just sort of paraphrasing and acting out the character, so we all get the benefit of Jack's performance skills as well.
Yeah, I'm a bit of what some people call the kind of the actor director, meaning that I will kind of, sometimes I'll say like, okay, let me just tag in for a second, and I'll tag in, as it were, and I'll swap with them, and I go, so that was great, you did this line here, wait a second longer, and then when you go, come across there, and I'll kind of demonstrate a bit of energy. Again, like Andrew said, paraphrasing some sort of line. Like, you're saying stuff like this, and the energy's kind of like this, and then kind of find a way to turn for this new thought here. And this just helps expedite the process sometimes, because we put our shows together very quickly, often in about a week or so.
Oh, really?
Which is much shorter than other groups sometimes do.
That is mad.
Yes. People often look at us like we are crazy. We did our first stumble through of the entire show last summer on our 4th day.
No way.
Yeah. They're very, very good actors.
That's commitment. That's skill.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, that's good that you're able to do that so quickly. That's incredible.
And it's partly necessity.
Yeah.
We are not publicly funded. We don't have. It's rare that we've gotten grants a couple times in the past for things we've done, but that's something that we've rarely gotten, which is okay. I often like to say we didn't get into it for the grants. That's, I'm not a professional grantor. I want to be an artist.
It's a whole different skill.
It's a whole different skill, and blessings to them. That's great. I hope one sees our shows one day and wants to do it for us.
Yeah.
But so it's also necessity, right? It's just the way you got to work, that we can't take too much time away from other paying work and or what have you, or we only have the space at a good rate for a week and a bit. We've made this deal. We've done that indie work. So then when we get in there, we got to work quick. We got to work smart.
Yeah, rehearsal space is a whole beast on its own.
It's a whole ongoing podcast about that one.
Yeah, that's right. Do you find rehearsal space easier to find out west than it is in Toronto? Or cheaper or better? Any hope for us out here?
I don't know how much hope there is for us out in Toronto. I mean, there's always hope. I mean, you just have to be willing to rehearse in atypical spaces.
Yeah.
And approach people that might not usually consider that, and have an angle that makes it sound nice for them. Out west, we've managed to do it again, partly because Andrew's from out there, so he has some family connections and things. On Bowen Island, things are a bit more chill. So if it's like, hey, can we come in this room half a day for 4 days or something? They're like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Where in Toronto, people are, I think, a bit more stuck in, people are trying to get
the
money they need. Yeah. But yeah, there are groups, even arts groups in the city, that do sit on space far more than they need to.
Yeah.
Not gonna name names, but I've seen it. I know it, and those spaces probably could be full all the time. So there's some stuff internally in the community that I think needs to be sorted out, as well as just support from the city
If
Yeah.
this city wants art, it has to make that realistic. It is pretty sad when you hear like there's an exciting new space opening up. It's for artists, and you can rent this room. It's only $45 an hour, and you're like, is that a good rate? Because that feels impossible,
Right.
you know. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult. Is that one thing that you would change about the Canadian industry? One of many.
One thing. We're gonna pick one thing.
Give me a top 10 real
Yeah,
quick.
my top 10, my top 20. No, like this. I don't want to start a whole other tangent about this. I think this boils down to something that I would say is really important to us with the shows that we make. And you ask, who is it for? And I would really say, like, this show is for you. We really make shows that are for an audience. I'm a believer that performance, live performance, should be an art form that is completed by an audience. That is the last part of it, always. And so the shows we make and the way that I direct and this kind of stuff is always about, like, that's kind of why, I do things. Like, I jump in, I tag in, I say, it's a bit like this. And some actors, luckily, not that I've worked with, but some might, which is fine, kind of go, oh, but I want to experience this. And I go, it's not about that. You can process that on your own in this space. That's fine. But we're making something that does a certain thing for them. And so as much as we can talk about space and granting and all these things, sometimes I feel like it does distract us from what our goal should be, which is to... I think sometimes performing artists shy away from calling themselves entertainers. Like, we're here to put on a show and, not debate real estate as much as it affects our lives. But I think these things would be less of an issue if the dynamic between audience and performer was bolstered again. So I don't want that to necessarily be something that, like, the government makes happen. I think there's a whole other social thing that needs to occur in terms of providing things that audiences want to see, and then audiences going, oh, that was really fun, I want to see that some more, and then we will be able to afford space, and then we pay $45 an hour.
Right.
So it's I don't love the version of it where it's kind of the, well, now this space is subsidized, but if it's subsidized to make shows that people aren't interested in seeing, we're gonna run back into the same issues. So,
Right.
but
Yeah.
that's a big subjective issue as well. And I'm not saying I know what those shows are. It's that's my ramble on that one.
I'll take it.
Okay, great.
Excellent, excellent. Do you have a favorite part of this show? Like a favorite line, something you quote all the time, or a favorite scene without any spoilers?
Yeah. The back half of the play is a really fun shift. One of the kind of themes in the show that again, you'll see the parallel to North American culture, this idea of coveting what thy neighbor has. The grass is always greener, which is also somehow paired with blaming that other as well, right? They both have what you want, and you want to be where they are, and also it's their fault. And for you being, it's like this whole circular thing, and they feel the same, like, about you somehow. And the people in the city wish they were in the country, and the people in the country wish they were in the city, and all these things. So a big early part of the show is getting into this setup where these two brothers, you start to learn more and more how much they really do wish they could almost trade places, and how much they're jealous of the other one's way of life. And then the second part comes up, and they've sort of done that, and it doesn't go well for them. It's not what they thought it would be, I think, but it leads to
to a lot of payoffs. This show has a lot of heavy stuff in it, but it's remarkably light. It's very comedic how Sam Shepard wrote this piece. And I think that's very smart. I think it's a great way to help us as an audience get in and connect with these characters, that we're willing to laugh quite a bit with them, and it helps us sympathize. It's a pretty kind of classic theater thing. So again, I don't want to say too much, but there is a sort of changing of places, and then the energies and the circumstances we get from that are very fun for me. I do enjoy that a lot. And from the performers, what they do.
Fabulous. Fabulous, fabulous. Now, is there anything else that you wanted to cover? Anything, did you want to dive into your personal resume at all? Or are you running out of time, have to run? Where are you at?
I mean, I'll share a little bit if someone's listening and they're wondering who we are and why is it interesting. Like, who are you? What are you doing?
Why are you here? What's your motivation?
I mean, there are wonderful people in the show. I'll shout them out a bit first. Andrew, I mentioned, my colleague, we go back to a professional theater training program together. We met there. As well as the other kind of brother was in Andrew's year at that school. And so we kind of share a training background. That's George Brown Theater School.
Nice.
And then we have Jamar Adams-Thompson, who's a wonderful actor that I've seen in many shows throughout the city in the last couple of years, really kind of all over the indie scene. And then we have Barbara Fulton, who just finished doing Come From Away, which is really exciting. That was a bit of a producer move on my part. I do sort of know her through some people. We know her son pretty well. And so then I saw that Come From Away was closing, May 9th, and our show was a month later. And I was like, I wonder if some talented older actors would be free and down to do like a cool indie play instead of that same musical for 3 years in a row, which I bet was wonderful, but this might feel odd. And she's so excited. She's been such a dream.
That's amazing.
And I come from a very multidisciplinary background.
Yeah.
I've really gone for a bit of a jack of all trades thing, and it's worked well in ways that sometimes make me very busy and stressed, but it's a good thing. So I started as a dancer professionally. That was I went to an arts high school where I did music and theater and dance and things like that. I ended up going and training at the National Ballet School of Canada. I worked professionally out of high school primarily with Opera Atelier and internationally with them, dancing and doing other stuff, other work as a dancer. Then I got into stage combat, and it was kind of through stage combat that I kind of got back into theater. I'd done some high school before that as well, and when you do stage combat, you do scenes as part of the fights, and I was like, these scenes are pretty neat. I'm really liking the scene part. And I ended up going to George Brown Theater School. And since graduating, I've worked in physical theater around the world. I still work in opera. I work with the COC most years in varying capacities, the Canadian Opera Company, sorry. I do immersive dance theater. I run a theater company. I teach movement now at George Brown Theater School, and I fight direct their shows. Like I'm doing a lot of different stuff, and it all feeds back into myself. They don't feel like different things to me. To me, it feels like one practice. They all help each other. And so when I'm directing a show, I love that I can help keep it cohesive, because I can, if there's ever choreography, I can set choreography. I can set the fights. I'm thinking of this. I'm helping with design. I'm helping with lighting. I help light this show and design that. All these different things. So one of the things I take some pride in as a director at this point is how cohesive many of the elements can be, because the team actually is smaller. Much as I love having a big team and working with many people, I love collaborating, I do also enjoy that. So that's something that if you're coming to see our shows, and if I'm directing it or on it or working on it, we have a lot of skills. So the vision is usually pretty tight for what is ultimately an indie show. So
That's something that I think is worth sharing. Yeah, and that's something about me.
Amazing. Do you find there's a lot of similarities between dancing and fight choreography?
Uh, I mean, it's physical work,
Mm.
um, so for sure, and it is ultimately choreography. So it's helped me a lot. Like I have the skill to visualize um, choreography and sequences of things in my mind ahead of time,
Mm.
and I learned that skill from dance. And as well, if I'm doing it, I also know what it feels like. I can internalize that, which helps me teach it. Like all these skills are very helpful.
Right.
Um, but ultimately, it feels so different. If you do it like dance, it doesn't look like a fight at all.
Okay.
Ultimately,
Yeah.
you must break away from that. It was actually the beginning of how I started more, like I mentioned, I teach movement. It was one of the first things that helped me understand what move, physical theater kind of stuff, how that's different than dance. Whereas fighting is one of the best ways to explore intentionality in movement. This literally means that I'm using a sword, I'm going like this, and if you
Yeah.
didn't stop me, it would do this, and then this would happen. Like it's very structured. It's not interpretive movement. It could mean many things.
Yes.
It
Yes.
means this exactly.
Means if you don't move, you will die.
You will die, and you'll die like this. Probably pretty bad, in this specific way. Um, it's not a, you know, in a lovely way. It lacks metaphor.
Mm.
Um, it's direct, and that's I think why playwrights love putting violence in their shows beyond it being something climactic to happen. It um, there's a directness to it. They still it's a way of putting movement in the show and action in the show that doesn't feel like you're pulling the show into some abstract place. Um, so yeah, ultimately, no, stage combat kind of tore me away in really interesting ways. I think it made me a better dancer. Like
Okay.
that's what I mean when I say it all feels like one art form to me now. It all just it's just continuing to reshape how I approach um, making art, creating stuff, and whatever that capacity is.
Amazing.
Yeah.
When you go and see theater, do you have theater pet peeves?
Yes.
How
Yes.
many? And name them all.
Uh, One that I'm seeing more and more these days is I'm
Mm.
seeing actors mic'd in situations where I don't think they should be mic'd.
Yeah.
And maybe that's me having some old traditional opinion about something. Um, but I find it jarring because a
Mm.
huge part of what helps us connect and that idea of like catharsis in the theater, that we are here and we're like breathing together, maybe if the show is working well, this kind of stuff. And part of that is the power of like the voices of these actors, hopefully. And if it doesn't feel like, if I'm looking at someone and they're not even that far from me, but their voice is coming from a speaker that's not where they are,
Mm.
and stuff like that,
It's a
it
bit of
disconnects me.
disconnect.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I've seen it in spaces where I have someone who's like pretty, like a few feet away from me, and their voice is coming from my right,
Right.
and they're standing
Yeah.
right in front of me. Um, I think that should chill. I think,
Especially in intimate spaces. Like if the
yeah, that's
space
what I'm talking
allows
about.
it, then yeah, I
But
concur.
even in some bigger houses,
Hmm.
like, and I know that some more modern shows and even that are like plays, they want to have more music that underscores it and it feels more modern and stuff like that. But actors' voices should be able to fill, the Royal Alex.
Yep.
If it's a play,
Mm-hmm.
they should
Mm-hmm.
be able to. So, um, I just think that's part of the craft.
Yeah.
I know some visions might require that for some interesting technical reason, but otherwise, like, I don't want a mic.
Yeah.
Um, Other pet peeves, because a part of my directorial style, like I said, I come from dance and opera, and often say my style is fairly image based. The way I stage is that I'm providing I'm working with the actors to find movements and images throughout that aren't never like tableau. It's not that, you know what I mean? But that the shapes reinforce the action. Um, I'm really a believer that if you closed your eyes and listened to the play, it should make sense. And also,
Mm.
if you could close your ears and you just watched it, it should make sense. Like
Yes.
you should be like, oh, these like you would slowly go, oh, I don't think these guys are. Oh, they're not getting along, and maybe they're brothers. Oh, and, like you should. It should slowly make sense as well.
Hmm.
So that's what I'm trying to do. And admittedly, I do see some shows where I think that craft of directing in that way is a little um, lacking in the community sometimes. Like not always, of course. Like or people are working on it still. Like I understand it's fine. I'm not accusing anyone of anything, but I just see that, and it doesn't help the actors, um, and it doesn't help the audience, right? Which is I want that.
Hmm.
Um, and pacing, just just picking up cues is
Yeah.
another pet peeve. That's a pretty classic one.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Do you have any favorite Canadian directors, either that you've worked with or know of?
Um, I there's a woman that I work with at George Brown. She's kind of my boss. Her name's Sue Miner.
I love Sue Miner.
Sue Sue's just a lovely person overall.
Yes.
And I've worked with her as a coach and a number of times working at George Brown and I've seen other shows she's done and seeing how she works and working with student actors and professional actors, I think she is someone who understands the relationship to the audience and um, and having a playfulness and like not taking things so seriously, like kind of no matter what the piece is, that there's fun underneath it, and I think that's really wonderful. I'm definitely a fan of what they do at Coal Mine Theater. Um, so the kind of head team of Ted Dykstra and Dinah Bentley and they swap alternating directing different shows, and yeah, however they do it, that does it for me most times. And
That's
it's
awesome.
it's that lovely thing where it's like, do I just a show being done well when there's clearly a craft behind it. That's the thing. I love a director who feels like they're executing a craft because then I don't have to like wonder about if I like it or not. I can then just kind of relax and take it in. Like,
Nice.
was it my favorite piece? No, but I enjoyed all these things about it. And it's just fun to think about how they did different things without just being like, oh, I didn't even feel like they did a show for me.
Mm.
So I feel like places like Coal Mine, even if it's not your favorite show you've ever seen, you still get so much out of it because there's like good craft behind it. Uh, yeah, those are some people that I like. I'm trying to
Nice.
think of anyone else. Maybe something coming to me later, but I don't know.
Nice. I accept those answers 100%. Well, I can wrap it up here if you want. Just tell the people where they can get tickets.
Okay, great. Yeah. Well, there is an Eventbrite. If you look up True West Toronto, True West East End Arts, it will come up on Eventbrite. We have a variety of silly ticketing prices for you. Or we stay irreverent in most ways. So it's you'll see if you just want to see the show, that's one price, and then if it's you want to see the show and you want to actually help pay the artists, you can. There's another price, and we're good with any one of them. It's cheaper during the first week, so
Okay.
coming earlier in the run helps us because it helps get word of mouth going. So we have a price incentive for that. But come anytime you like. You can also show up at the door. We may not have a tap. We're pretty indie. Bring some cash, or you might just send an e-transfer to us. All right? We're just keeping it chill. If you have no money and you really want to see it, we won't ever turn anyone away, to be honest.
Nice.
So East End Arts, I believe it's 450 Broadview Avenue, June 4th to the 15th. It's truly going to be great.
Amazing. I love how you do the pricing like that. That's a great idea.
Yeah, we kind of say this is what this would do. If you pay
Yeah.
this much, that's just like
you came to see the show, great. If you pay this much, you're helping pay the artists. And I'll reiterate that this is, it's a profit share, right? So any amount that you give to the show, you can know that is going right out to the artists. And that's why we keep Team Smalls, is that it helps us give actually hopefully something that is a decent piece of money as best we can to the people involved. It's really important to us.
That is awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today.
Yeah.
And all the best with your show.
Thanks so much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for watching and for listening. Grab your tickets to True West in the link below and be sure to tell us your favorite part, and I'll see you in the next interview.